from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
We're talking significant improvement to the roster.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs.
Wide receivers who are hitting the portal. We talked about how if you can't crack a starting depth with this talent and this room on this team, then I don't want you here. If you couldn't push. Tuggle, it seems like, is staying through, developing through. Let's go to the quarterback side of things.
Let's talk about the incoming first, because we talked about wide receivers, so it makes sense we transition out incoming, and then we go Jaden Rashad a third segment.
We'll go Jaden Rashad. Daniel, we said huge need. You just got done saying huge need at wide receiver. A quarterback's best friend, Daniel, is a highly touted, twitchy, fast. Give me the ball at any place. Now, stop me if you've heard this type of receiver before that can play on the outside because they got speed, can play in the slot because they don't care about getting hit, and they got twitchiness in between the 5 to 10 yard route tree. And when they have the ball in their hand, they're going to get past the defense and get going. Everybody last year was lazy to call Ladd McConkey a Wes Welker. It's only because he looks a certain way. Okay.
Yeah. And we don't have to get into what that certain way is, but that's fine.
I stopped. Let me tell you, the incoming wide receiver, Daniel, that we have, Zachariah Branch, the Branch brothers, today, Sunday, have said, we're coming to UGA. We're a package deal, one safety, one wide receiver, best wide receiver in a class that when he came to USC, and Lincoln Riley had said, and Daniel, it is a Ladd McConkey, but I don't know. We're going to have to see on the field because Ladd McConkey was a 3-star. That should have been a 4-star. But I'm just going to let you know a name that, as evaluators have seen this kid's tape, I'm going to tell you a name of what they see him to be in the NFL. And that's one of Mr. Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs and Dolphins, who is one of the twitchiest, fastest, ball in hand, watch out, touchdown coming wide receivers we've seen in a hot minute. Branch comes on over and says, the legacy and prestige of the Georgia program means they will be competitive and the standard of college football. This is what he said. I'm coming to UGA because it's the standard, and the excellence is going to continue for years to come. Daniel, this is the biggest get in the portal that Georgia has ever gotten.
Oops. Yeah, you're not. He didn't stutter, and he didn't need to. This is the number 3 rated player, according to On3 Sports, in the entire transfer portal, Zachariah Branch. This would be, if you just take his coming out of high school last year numbers, this would be the highest rated wide receiver that Georgia has ever gotten in the history of the program. And so you're talking about a guy that is already has a pedigree in terms of recruiting prowess and the way he's been evaluated that exceeds many of the people. You're going to pair him with Taylor coming in next year, another 5-star wide receiver, true freshman guy. And now all of a sudden you've got a little bit of, little thunder and lightning combo there for you, Clint, at the wide receiver position. But no, Zachariah Branch, people are going to be all over themselves to make the Ladd McConkey comparisons. And I'll tell you where you're right, and I'll tell you where you're wrong. Okay? Now, before I do any of this, let me be totally clear. Nothing that I'm about to say matters as much as what you do on the football field.
There we go, ladies and
gentlemen. And
Ladd
McConkey did on the football field and is still doing on the football field exceedingly well, like AKA better than most of the receivers in the AFC.
The best receiver of last year's draft.
Okay, so he would win Offensive Rookie of the Year if it weren't for his former teammate, Brock Bowers. Okay, so Nothing matters as much as what you do on the field. So Zachariah Branch still has to prove it no matter what. But let me tell you how he's similar to a Ladd McConkey, and then I'll tell you how he's different from a Ladd McConkey. Okay?
Go ahead.
Similarities are that this guy gets open because of his elite ability to change directions on the football field. He is, you call it whatever you want. You call it twitchy, you can call it route running, you can call it getting in and out of breaks. You saw it when you watch, go watch the tape of the Ladd McConkey cone drill from the combine last year.
That's when you knew this cat is unlike anything else at this year's draft. You saw the cone drill, you saw how quick he got 5'10". The shuttle was unbelievable. You're telling me Branch is similar to that?
Yeah, no, I'm telling you that Branch, that is his game. Like, that is absolutely who he is. And so the ability to run routes, you play him in the slot, you play him on the outside. He's only 5'10". Ladd McConkey, also a bit undersized, 6 foot. Ladd McConkey, 6 foot, 185. Zachariah Branch, 5'10", 175. And so they're pretty similar in terms of size. What Branch lacks in height, he makes up for in his ability to jump more so than Ladd McConkey and go up and high point the football. But neither of these guys are going to win with raw physicality or like elite size. That's not who they are. They're going to win the same way that Tyreek Hill wins, the same way that, like the guys like this win. They're going to win by absolutely putting defenders' jock straps on the ground because of their ability to get in and out of breaks and run routes. So that's how they're similar. Now, I ask you this, Clint. There's a lot of fire Mike Bobo out there. Okay? I've heard a lot of it. I've heard a lot of fire Mike Bobo out there. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you a simple 2-part question.
Okay.
Part 1. Did Mike Bobo have a guy like that on this year's roster that he could go to?
Nowhere near him.
None.
Not even like class 1, class 2, class 3. It was class 1 and then maybe class 4.
None.
Maybe.
Last year, when Mike Bobo did have Ladd McConkey on that roster, did it work out pretty good in terms of production?
Ladd McConkey, when healthy, was an absolute game changer that opened everything. You want to talk about 14th in the SEC in rushing when you have Ladd McConkey on the outside and you can't load the box with another safety because one has to stay on top of his side all the time? Yeah, it opened things up.
Mike Bobo used him and used him well, and he did so to the tune of a really productive season, lest you forget last year, Georgia fans. A team was undefeated going into the SEC championship game, and then a 3-point loss to Alabama kept us out of the playoff, which was absolutely insane. So Mike Bobo's got that guy back. Now, let me tell you how. Let me stop the Georgia fans who are going to be quick to make this Ladd McConkey comparison. And again, nothing matters except what you do on the field. But I am here to tell you, Clint, that Zachariah Branch ain't no Ladd McConkey. He's way faster.
No, there.
Like,
gentlemen.
He's, listen, way faster. The comps that make sense are not to Ladd McConkey. They are to guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like, these are the guys.
Oh, hold
He's
on.
faster than Jalen Waddle. Zachariah Branch he ran a faster 100 meters than Jalen Waddle.
Now, guys, I want you to imagine this. Cass Jones, damn good dog, did amazing things for us.
Sure.
Very happy. When he caught that open touchdown.
And stumble, fumbled into the end zone.
That's right.
But
imagine
he caught it, which is more than I can say for some people.
I can't. Imagine Gunnar Stockton playing the game, looking over and saying, I want to test out what this right arm can do. And Branch going, okay, try to outthrow me. Go ahead.
He won the state championship in the 100 meters and the 200 meters.
Daniel, the time.
Yeah, he ran a 10.33.
10-3-3 and a 21.
Yeah.
21 in the 200. Like, y'all.
He's very fast, but he's also very twitchy, so he's got that elite top end speed, but he also combines it. That's where the Jalen Waddle comp, to me, honestly makes more sense than the Lad McConkey comp. Georgia's got an elite wide receiver. Now, Zion, his brother, coming over as well, has had some injuries, has not had the career, but the safety position, a position that we are going to need depth, and I would not be surprised at all if Zion Branch is a contributor on this Georgia team. But make no mistake, Zachariah Branch is the most important transfer portal pickup in the history of the Georgia football program.
Y'all,
period.
It's not we said wide receivers had to improve. Kirby Smart, the weekend after his father passed, is back in the building and getting the top wide receiver you can get, the top wide receiver you could have gotten last year. And now he gets him here in Athens because he wants to continue.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
106-100. Let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so there were a couple of different things that Kentucky was fighting in this game. First and foremost, it was Florida's ability to crash the glass. Offensively, Florida is the second best team in the nation in terms of offensive rebound percentage. They went out today, grabbed 15 offensive boards. They had 31 second chance points, and yet it did not matter because of what Kentucky was doing offensively. We'll get to that later. But the Wildcats fighting the offensive glass in this game, while also fighting what was an interesting game, to say the very least, from this officiating crew. They called the game pretty loosely in the first half. Actually, I would say extremely loose in the first half. Almost nothing was getting called until very late in the first period. You were seeing physicality. You were seeing guys bumping into each other. If I'm not mistaken, you saw Elijah Martin trip towards the end of the first half because Otega Owe bumped him. There was no call on that. And then all of a sudden you get into the second half and every single thing is getting called on Kentucky. Every single thing. 20 personal fouls in this game. 20 personal fouls for Kentucky, ended up being 35 free throw attempts for Florida. 22 of 35 from the line were the Gators. If they make 6 more, if they make 7 more, which they could have absolutely done, Florida could have won this game, and yet you see Kentucky pulling out the win. Fighting the offensive glass, fighting what was just a really weird officiating game, I guess I should say. Not what you want to see from Kentucky in terms of physicality. You saw it get a little better in the second half. You saw them close that first half super strong with a couple of kill shots, actually. If you don't know, Evan Mia, a big-time college basketball analytics channel, he has this metric called kill shots, where if you go on a 10-0 or more run, then you mark it down as a kill shot. And Kentucky had 3 of them in this game. 3 of them, and yet they only won by 6. That just shows you how good of a team that Florida is. You have to give respect to the Gators. You have to get credit to guys like Walter Clayton Jr. and Elijah Martin. Both were absolutely phenomenal today, minus some issues at the charity stripe for those 2 players. Those guys were huge, and that's what we were saying heading into this thing. Could Elijah Martin and Will Clayton Jr., alongside Will Richard, could those guys get you a win without a ton of production from your front court? Florida got production from their front court, absolutely. It just wasn't in the way that you normally expect it. Alex Condon and I believe it's Chinyelu is how you pronounce his last name, number 9 for the Gators. Both those guys combined for 18 total rebounds and 19 points. They were doing insane work down low, just super physical, just a lot of weight behind these guys. This is something that I noted in the preview episode. This Florida team, packs a ton of punch down low, not necessarily in terms of scoring output, but in terms of just muscle. And that was going to be a major issue heading into this game. Amari Williams early on in this one struggled mightily, rebounding the ball. He struggled in the post defensively. He struggled with a couple of different shots offensively as well. And yet him and Brandon Garrison, they were able to battle back. They were able to fight back and play pretty well, I think, overall in this game. If you want to go look at the plus minus, Amari Williams, -2, Brandon Garrison, +3. We'll get to the plus minus here later on in the show because it's interesting. It's very interesting how this box score sort of lines up here for the Wildcats. Extremely balanced scoring effort from a crew that ended up shooting, is that correct? 57.8% from the floor. Absolutely insane. Again, just a massive, massive win for Kentucky. The Wildcats, I believe this is now their 3rd quad 1 win on the season. And we'll get to KenPom here in a little bit whenever those analytics update. But man, Kentucky going out and showing that they can compete with just about anybody in the nation. If you play that game again, you're probably not going to see Florida as dominant on the offensive glass. You probably see the game called a little bit differently. Again, I'm just so baffled by the way that this game was called in the second half, as opposed to the first, because you can only have one or the other. Either it's a really physical game and you call everything, or it's a really physical game and you just call nothing. You cannot have it one way or another, just kind of whenever you please up and down the floor. Giving up off that many offensive rebounds, it'll hurt them in the future. The problem is, looking at their schedule, the problem with that is they play so many teams in the SEC that do such a good job on the offensive glass. Georgia, the next opponent, 10th in the nation in offensive rebound percentage. Mississippi State, right after that, 27th in the nation in offensive rebound percentage. Texas A&M, 1st in the country. If we see Kentucky just struggle to crash the glass like they did today against Texas A&M, I may jump off of a building. I will not be able to handle A&M's performance in that game if that's just what you're going to see.
From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Looking at the wild card round, the Pittsburgh Steelers are big underdogs to the Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers have limped into the playoffs, and many are wondering how quickly they'll get bounced. FanDuel thinks it'll be fast. They have the Ravens favored by 8.5. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Time to talk a little hoops. First of all, congrats to the ladies who won Thursday. I guess they play today, right?
They play today against Missouri. About to write up a little thing on BOL about that.
Okay.
Boy, they're good. Boy, injury to Sarah Ashley Barker, though.
How bad?
Rumored, Alabama hasn't said, rumored out 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 games.
Oh.
Nope, wait.
Same thing.
2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks. Yeah, I think it's the dreaded high ankle.
Oh, that sucks. Okay. Alabama gets a big win yesterday over Oklahoma. Now, look, I'm going to, thanks for teaching me this word, tamp down expectations here for a minute, or jubilation, because I do think Oklahoma was mildly overrated a hair. They were undefeated, and they deserve all the credit for that. But when I watched them yesterday, I'm like, that's not the number 12 team in the country. And if it is, it's a bad country. But they still got some do that. Elvis dude, man,
Elvis is
he's
in the building.
a hunk of basketball player. But overall, here's what I love about yesterday. And I'm going to talk about some stats. Michael Southern texted me, and I'll get Michael Southern on the show this week to talk some basketball, by the way. First of all, I love that we have not played our best game, and we just beat the number 12 team in the country by 28. That was not our best game, and it wasn't by a long shot. But let me give you some stats that Michael Southern sent over. Alabama's averaging 91.1 points per game, currently best in program history, ahead of last year's program record 90.1, so a whole point higher. The 91.1 points per game leads the nation despite shooting 31% on threes, the second to worst percentage in the Nate Oates era. Holy cow, bottom 12 percentile in the country. So we haven't found our shots yet, and we're still averaging this much. We currently lead currently the best rebounding and passing team in the Nate Oates era. Top 3 team nationally in rebounds and top 40 in assists. So this team's really getting it together. If they can find their shot, and by God, they're going to shoot their way into finding it. That's the good thing. They ain't going to quit shooting.
Imagine if they can keep winning, keep playing like they are right now, even shooting no better than they are, but keep winning. And then late, mid-March.
Find that stroke.
Mid-March, the shots start falling. That team's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some nitpick stuff you can get on, and if you really want to analyze this thing. But overall, you've got to be thrilled to death that this team has not hit its stride, and it just beat the number 12 team by 28. It's got 12 wins already. It's 1-0 in the toughest conference in the country. Not just my opinion. That's facts. That's like statistics back that up. And then you look around the SEC, and all of a sudden, Tennessee looked good against Arkansas. They look good, but again, they have some flaws. Auburn looked good against Missouri, but I watched that game. They have some slight flaws too. It is what we think it is. I don't think there's anybody that's unbeatable, and I think Alabama's right up there with any of them. And if we play you in Coleman Coliseum, you better strap it on. And if you I got to find a better way to say that. But if we play you on the road, here's the catch, Jimmy. I don't know yet. When we go to play South Carolina Wednesday night, that's going to be big. South Carolina just took a bludgeoning by Mississippi State. A Mississippi State team they're not bad. They're good.
They're good.
But are they 35 points better than South Kakalaki? For the love of God.
Shouldn't be that big of a difference, but I'm with 8 SEC games yesterday, Luke. Only one road winner, Vanderbilt over LSU. That was the only road winner. This is what I'm curious to see about these midweek games. 8 midweek games coming up, right, over Tuesday, Wednesday. Is there only going to be one road winner again? And if so, let's hope it's Alabama. Let's hope. I mean, I'm just saying, is it going to be typical in a particular slot of games for the on the road to be 1-7? Is that going to be typical, or was that an outlier? I'm thinking it's going to be close to typical. I'm going to say maybe typical going forward is 2-6. And
I'm with you.
Weekends at 3-5, you're like, wow, 3 road games, 3 road teams won this week will be kind of shocking. I think it's going to be like that, Luke. And the thing for Alabama this week is, if you don't beat South Carolina on the road, then who are you going to beat on the road?
Yeah,
because this might be the easiest, and that's not the right word to use. Let's say this: the most winnable of the 9 road games is Wednesday.
And let me tell you this. I like this. People are going to think I'm nuts about this, but hear me out. I'm glad we're playing the easiest road game early. Let's play it, and let's win it. I think we will. And then you go to Texas A&M. That's going to be tough. They just took care of Texas. That's going to be very tough, but that's a winnable game. They're not unbeatable. Then you come on and play Ole Miss. So what I'm saying is you start out with a good run in the SEC. On the backside, we have like Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn or something to end the season. I mean, something crazy, right? Yeah. So if we go 1-2 in there, I mean, that's very understandable. And people will be like, "Oh, Alabama's limping down the stretch." I would almost rather, because I think basketball is ebbs and flows, and I feel like I want to have my ebb right there right before the tournament starts, like be done with it, and then come up high in tournament time. Because I think it's going to do like this, and I think with Alabama, it's going to do like this quickly. It's not going to be like this huge long dip and then a huge long run. I think we can have more short spurts, and we got to take care of South Kakalaki. We got to take care of them. And
it's almost a must win. I mean,
I'm with you.
Like a must win. Unless you lose this game, you just don't want to. Okay, well, where are you going to find the other road wins? So, and I think I'm with you. I think Alabama will beat.
I mean, LSU, the only team that lost at home.
Alabama. I think Alabama will beat South Carolina. I do. So I'm going to pick. If we're going to do pick, I'm picking Alabama to win the game. I think they will. They're just better, and I think they will win. I don't know that it's going to look like that Oklahoma game looked. I don't know that we're going to trounce anybody by 28 on the road, but I do think Alabama will win the game. They're just going to outdude South Carolina. It'll be nice to see our old friend Nick Pringle, by the way.
It will, and he's playing okay for him.
Good player. Okay. He was a good player at Alabama, or I'd say he was a contributing good player at Alabama. He's just a little until it wasn't always easy to coach.
Until yesterday, given what I'd seen, until yesterday, I need to give Cliff Amore a shout out. Yeah. I would have rather had Nick Pringle on this team than have Amore
as a player.
At the beginning of the year, clearly I wanted Cliff.
Yeah.
But up until yesterday, and I want to give Amore his flowers because
he was great.
Yeah, he was great yesterday. Played within himself. 4 of 4 from the field. He didn't take any free throws. Okay. 6 rebounds, some nice blocks. He did what we've been waiting for him to do. I don't need him to score 20. Mark Sears is going to score 20 every game. Outside of one game, Mark Sears is going to score 20 every game. That's just what he does. He scores 20.
You just need Cliff to be a physical presence. Almost like the run-stuffing defensive end. That run-stuffing defensive end doesn't need to sack the quarterback to make an impact on the game. He needs to be a wall to where the other team looks at that side of the field and says, we're not running it over there to that side.
Yep.
That's a waste of time.
Or up the middle with Terrence Cody. He's Terrence Cody. Like he gets 2 tackles. You're like, what's the big deal? Well, he forced everything somewhere else.
That's right. And teams wouldn't challenge him. Teams wouldn't even challenge him. So that's what we need Cliff Amore to be, just a physical presence. He doesn't need to be the stat sheet filler. We got other dudes for that.
LeBaron Philon being LeBaron Philon. Grant Nelson really coming on now. I mean, really coming on.
Great. Grant is I don't want to say in a team full of stars that Grant's sort of the backbone of the team. But what I love about Grant is he's so talented, but he plays hard. That's one thing that Alabama has done for him, that hard hat mentality. Grant freaking gets after it.
Did he win the hard hat yesterday? I didn't see it.
He should have.
Did you see the save he had on their baseline? I mean, it was beautiful. And it's hard to be that big and run that fast to get over there to get that. And, there were times he was an on-the-floor guy. He spent a lot of time on the floor, like not running upright. I'm talking about knocked down to the floor, or he jumped to the floor, because he was hustling. And Grant Nelson played well. Mark Sears, Mark Sears, I thought he had a concerted effort to get to the rack more. But I'm telling you, Jimmy, and maybe it never comes. We've got a large sample size now, so maybe I'm just wishing. But if we can find our stroke, man, we blew out Oklahoma, but it doesn't feel like we blew them out, right? To me, it doesn't feel like it. I'm saying, like, if you're watching that game, I looked up and I go, we got 98 points. How?
I knew we were going to win handily 6 or 7 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Maybe
it was never close.
6 or 7 minutes into the game, I'm like, well, we did win this one. But it just felt like Alabama was a lot better than Oklahoma.
And I don't remember what the exact score was when John Petty and Herb and all those dudes stroked LSU out of existence in Baton Rouge that time. I think it was during the COVID year. But I remember that game, I was like, we blew them out. And I don't remember what the final score was, but it was probably 30, whatever. But it felt like we blew them out so early because we were hot from deep. This game, we were killing them just like with regular old buckets, and it didn't feel like we were blowing up. Every time I looked at the score, I'm like, how are we up this much?
I think it's just from the 3-point shooting wasn't phenomenal. It was just okay. And
you had a stat about the 3-point. Say that.
Well, I mean, Porter Moser came up with this stat. I can't remember. I guess I heard it either out of Porter's mouth or someone repeating Porter Moser. But Porter Moser, the Oklahoma coach, was asked, about is it difficult to play Alabama because of they're so good at 3-point shooting. And as we know, as Alabama fans, we're actually not a great 3-point shooting team at the moment. But Porter Moser said it doesn't matter that they're not making their threes because they rebound 40% of their missed threes. 40% of their missed threes, they get their own rebound. So what does it matter that they don't make them? And if that's true, and again, I'm quoting Porter Moser there. If that's true, what a shout out to how hard this team plays, the hard hat mentality that they have, and Nate Oates' system. It defends the system. When somebody's like, they take too many bad shots, they take too many threes. What does it matter if you're rebounding them 40% of the time?
What does it matter when you win by 28 over the 12th ranked team in the country? I mean, I hate that live by the 3, die by the 3 thing. I mean, they're living pretty good by the 3.